Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, it's another Bougainvillea. So welcome back to another episode of Bougainvillea. I just did one of these trees, two of these trees actually, a couple of days ago, and got a lot of questions and comments already on this tree. These variegated trees I love so much. Any of the variegateds I just really do love. These trees, they have that little pinkish color when the new growth comes out, so very nice pink hue to it. I'm working on these with my friend William, so thanks to William again for entrusting me to work on these in the plant room here this late fall as we get these ready for a push maybe in the plant room, and then hopefully a little bit later on next year when we get them outside again, they're going to just do wonderful things. So we're going to trim this one up. This also has a bit of a screen here that was protecting the top of this, which had some exposed roots. So I haven't seen what's underneath and the whole root structure, so we're going to repot this one today. Again, not the best time of year to repot some trees, but in the comfort of my plant room, I say it over and over again. I've got the warmth, I've got the heat, I've got the light, and there's new growth on here. It's energy positive. We're going to go ahead and see if we can prune this thing up, roots and top, and get it a new look in this pot. We'll put it in the same pot, but we're going to see how the roots are looking. So first things first, we have to get it out of this pot. We're going to take away this mesh here. It's got some weeds growing in it. We got all kinds of weeds in this tree. And it is not wired in here, so we're going to go ahead. So one thing I recommend when you get a new tree from someone, and even if they've given you some specifics on the tree, when you have a new tree, that is one of the times where you can do a repot. Now again, you have to make sure that you have the right aftercare to take care of a tree when you're repotting, when it's perhaps not the best time of year. But you want to know what your tree is in, what the tree is in. And so since I'm sharing the duties with William on this tree, I want to make sure that I know what this root system looks like and what the soil is doing to this tree. This is a little bit finer soil than I use typically. Mine is not much bigger, but a little bit bigger. And I have the Akadama pumice mixture, and this has some other elements in here. And so I want to make sure, again, that I know what this tree is doing and how it's looking, and we'll put it in some soil that I'm really comfortable with because I'm going to help take care of this tree with William, and I want to make sure that we're able to keep this thing watered the way we need to and let it dry out the way it needs to, and so we have a good balance of water and oxygen. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing out of the pot. When you are repotting a tree that's new to you, not only do you want to look at how the root structure is, what the soil they used was, just how things are looking in general, but I also, with a new species like Bougainvillea is to me, I want to know what the roots look like and how tender they might be and how careful I have to be when I'm repotting a tree in the future. How do the roots work? So I want to make sure that I'm always being fairly gentle this first time around until I know more about the tree as I continue to research. As I work through the tree, of course, I'm combing out the soil and the roots, and we're going to want to see if we can get some nice root work down in this tree to promote the best growth moving forward. So here we have our bougainvillea tree and the root system. And we're always looking for a 360-degree pattern around our tree. So as you circle around this tree, we can see that there's roots coming out from all different directions. A fairly decent pattern all the way around the tree. Now, the pot we took it from is a little bit big for this tree right now, but in the young development stage of a bonsai, we want a nice big pot to let those roots take off and grow and shoot up a whole bunch of growth. So as I bring this pot closer, you can see when we have this tree in here that there's plenty of room to grow. And again, the pot is probably a size too big. But we're going to go ahead and put it in the same pot because that's what we have. It'll look great in there with the color that William has chosen. And we're just going to keep growing because this is a tree that's young and in the development stage. And so right now, we're going to go ahead and do some root pruning. Now again, we want a 360-degree pattern of roots that goes around the tree. And you notice right away we have some long and winding roots. Now, part of this, of course, is because it's a big pot. And it can go around the tree, around the pot, and has all this freedom to roam. And so it can grow like crazy long, and we don't get as many feet of roots. Again, the size of the pot matters because we might get roots like this. So if you have a really big pot, you could have runner roots like this that just go crazy on you. And then it's really long roots with fine feeders at the end, and we want the fine feeder roots closer up. So right off the bat, I'm going to cut these off right here. You see how this one goes up? I'm going to cut that one back there a little bit more. And we got those off of the tree right off the bat. And look at how condensed and compact that root system is already. So these roots will go around a big pot and just go all over the place, and they won't be as fine and ramified. So the smaller pot sometimes can help promote that. So what we want to do now is we want to continue to comb out these roots and kind of see the pattern of where these roots are going and which ones we're going to save and which ones we might cut down to promote this 360 more flat root base. So as you look at the tree, you can notice a bit of a pattern with these roots. Look at this one right here and the one right below it. That's two roots going off the same spot. Now, if we want a little bit bigger tree, taller tree, and one with a little bit more nabari down there, we can go ahead and we can take out this top one right here. That one's gone. And now look, the root plane is a little bit lower, and there's a little bit of a trunk flare right here. Now, it's not much, mind you. And this tree's got a long way to go depending upon how big William and I would like to get this tree someday. But there's a little bit of root flare down here, or the trunk flare, I should say. But this root was kind of covered by the root on top. So now this root is about the same plane as this one, and then we have this one right here that looks like it's kind of a rotten root with a thicker root right here, right down below it. I cut that little piece off here. So again, as I kind of peel away some stuff here and some remaining dirt, we have this nice root down here, a little lower than these two, and then there's another one right here. We're going to leave both of those and just kind of see how they develop over the years. But now this big root over here is almost like a double. You see that from back here, which you couldn't see, and then here's another one, nice one right here. So now we have all the roots basically on the same plane, but this side's a little weak, and so we want to make sure we continue the growth over here. I'm going to cut this little root coming off the top here. I'm going to cut off this root on the top right there. And these are almost hard and woody like the branches, the trunk actually right there. And so if we wanted to have an exposed root and see how high it sits on my turntable right now, we could have this root over rock someday. That could be a fun thing. If I have a rock in here to show you an example, I don't have a big one, but you know, we have a big rock under here. Look at how this rock can sit right under here, and we have a root over rock. Now, I'd use a much bigger rock on that. But we're not going to do that today. We're just going to make sure this is healthy, and we're going to keep some of these roots, and we're going to decide maybe a different time for that kind of design. But some options you can always take. So now let's look at the root structure a little bit more as we've combed them out. We've got some wonky ones still. Look at this one coming over here. It's from this big root and it's down below, and then it kind of comes up and moves over there. Well, we're going to go ahead and cut it down right here and promote some growth to go more down. We got this one wiggling up. We're going to cut that off and then cut it down here to promote down growth. There we go. This one will cut a little bit shorter too, right there. This one down here is long too. We'll cut it about right there. And we got some long ones over here. We'll cut this one right about here. And we'll cut this one right about here. So we have these 360-degree roots that are starting to make the trunk flare a little bit. We have some fine feeder roots as well at the bottom of these roots. So we're just going to leave some of the length on these last ones here so we don't cut too much of the roots off on this iteration right here. Whoops. Sorry about that. Throwing my tools around. So now we can lay this pretty flat in the bonsai pot right there and have a nice flare working for the future. Okay? So we're going to leave that right there and not go any smaller. So let's put some soil in the base of the pot and get this thing going. So here we have a nice mound of dirt in our great big pot. Now I noticed when I cleaned out this pot that it had a crack that I didn't notice before. Now this will be in my plant room. It won't be in a Minnesota cold winter. There's a crack in there, but I think it's fine. We'll keep this protected and we should be okay. And we'll get a new pot for this at the next repotting. So here's my tree. And if I go ahead and snug it on down into the soil, it's going to be in good shape. And notice how nice and spread out those roots are just by me putting that right on that soil here. They just kind of spread out nicely on their own. We have them spread out. We're tucking them so they can grow. And all these are going to thicken up and hopefully form new roots and thicker roots and have our 360. I am going to cut this one off right here. It's a little bit high and coming over too high. We're going to leave that right there. Get those thicker, and this is one of our weak spots, right? Now before I put soil in here to kind of seal the deal, I want to make sure that I have kind of a relative front on this tree, and I think this might be one of the fronts right here. It has a nice movement, and this kind of comes up towards us a little bit. Back here is also a nice front, but the root flare is kind of coming right out at us. So maybe something off-centered here, maybe this can be the front of this tree with the roots going right and left. So it's either going to be that right there. So there's kind of one look right there. You see how we have a left and right and two kind of primary branches. We might have to do some manipulating of one of those branches here. And then this other side here, again, if we twist things around a little bit, not a bad looking front either. And it presents this split of this big trunk a little better as well. So I'm not sure which one's going to be the winning. This just seems to be the better looking structure right now, but it depends upon which branch we keep for the main tree. I think I like it right here. We can always move it next time. Okay, so let's make sure those roots are flared out again. Now, this is not going to have any wire on it, so we have some moist rocks right now, and that'll help kind of keep this in place for the moment. And then we'll probably get some rocks down here. I think I did bring some bigger rocks down here. So I'll find my bigger rocks and we'll put those in place to kind of keep them, keep this tree from moving around. So we got some soil, plenty of it. This is my small size Akadama and pumice. Okay. So let's go ahead and move this around here. Get this a general feel for where this root base is going to go. And if you can see now the flare of this trunk, right there, we got those root flares growing, and that's going to show age. We love to see the age in our trees. We want our trees to look like miniature versions of the big ones outside that we climb, that we swing on, that we admire from afar because they're so big and majestic. Come and stand by. And you can see the trunk here starting to flare out. We've got some movement over here, this coming down here, and on this side right here, a pretty nice looking tree right there. Okay, so we are close to where we want to be. We'll get a little more soil on here. Now this is going to wiggle a little bit in here until I water it for the first time, and then until we get the rocks on here. But I just want to make sure we have the soil where we want it. A lot of my forest that I plant, and when you're using muck and everything, you're building up things and you have quite a mound by your tree. And of course, when you water a mound, especially if it's really dry and maybe some fertilizer have kind of spread out and caked out a little bit, you can get the water that just runs right out of the pot. So you'll notice here, I have this a nice 1/2 inch from the lip of the pot. So the water is going to all be in here and water this really nice. And we still have some exposed roots. So now what I can do is I can lift up a little bit and get some soil down underneath that part there, so we can see just a little bit more of that root flare. And again, we have to be careful because that's going to move around a lot because we don't have any wire on here. But we did cut off some of the bigger, thicker roots. It's going to need to establish its roots here down in the plant room here over the coming weeks. Okay, so I lifted it up just a touch there with our new soil level, and I think we are in good shape. And now what to do with the tree. So again, we have a semi-proposed front here, but this branch back here goes way back. So you see this branch right here? This goes way back away from us, and so this has a real nice, right here, all of this fun movement is really kind of cool. And then our other proposed front was kind of here. If we tilt it the right angle, it's a little tilted heavy towards us this direction with this branch coming right in our face. So I still think this might be the better angle at the moment. But again, can we modify this side a little bit? That's a fun design too, but I don't like this big branch in the middle. So that branch going out in the back either can come off completely or we can shorten it up. So let's see about making a couple of early decisions. The other thing about this that's maybe not as appealing to me is you see this branch right here? It comes out up here and curves back around the front here, and it blocks these branches down here. It's kind of a bit of an eyesore here on that angle. But over here, it's a good texture branch for the back. If this were to front, I would take this branch off in favor of this one, so we have this kind of bit of a swirl of the trunk down here this way, a little bit of movement to the right and then up, but it comes too much at our face, and so I don't like that branch very much. And if this is the front, I do like keeping that one because of where it goes and how it's kind of moving up at the top there. So I think we're going to continue to think of this as the front of the tree. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of this branch right there. I might get rid of that completely. And I think for this tree, for right now, I will. I don't want that tree branch right there coming out at us and bending around. Now I can see the flow of this tree. My eyes can follow this up and follow it a little bit more up to the top of the tree. And now this is still a little bit in our face, but we can do something with that branch as well. So we have a branch that's splitting right here. This looks like a little bit older wood. We got this we can cut down at least to right there. But again, we don't want this piece going right in our face, so we're going to go ahead and cut this one right there. Now this one circles up here and it comes over here and splits really nicely here, and it's the top of the canopy, so I like that. But then it's got this one branch going right straight back here, and we don't want that either. So we're going to go ahead and cut this off and hope for some back budding and see if we can get some branches to grow. And that could also be a cutting if we wanted to. We can see if that would grow, and we have some really funky movement right there. So I don't know if we'll keep that long term. But we've had it's got a nice moving section right here, and then this branch comes to the front. Maybe we'll get some rebudding back here to go this way instead of right at our face here. Now this is another branch that comes out. It's really it's curvy here, but coming out at us a little bit. Then it takes this really inside curve there. It's a really big curve, and it's actually a branch on the inside of a curve. You see that right there? It's on the inside of a curve. Now we either take this whole branch off, and then it's the curve, or we take that out in favor of this curve. But this curve is super big, right? Let's be bold and cut that off and see what this can do. And you see how it goes up there now? Let's go ahead and cut it back to right there. Now we have this branch that comes up here, curves over this way, and comes up this way. We don't know where it's going to go. Maybe we'll get a back bud now because we've taken some of the energy out here, and we're going to see if we get some back budding on the node that's back here, the node that's right here, or maybe something in there. This tip out here is a little bit long for this branch, but I'm going to leave it long and I'm going to leave it grow because I want that branch to thicken up, because this is the first primary. It's about the same level, and I don't know which one of those I'm going to keep in the long run. And so I want this to grow thick and long, so we'll let this one kind of do that. We're going to cut this back way shorter here. This is growing and competing underneath here in a direction we don't really need, so let me show you that back here. It's right down here. These kind of cross underneath each other. So if I cut this one right here, we cut that off, and now we can see that branch real nice and clean. We cut this shorter. This one's growing right back at this other branch right here. You see there's a really nice branch back here. There's a branch back there. We're just going to cut this off for right now. And see right here, this is growing and competing with this nice curvy branch. We don't want that. That's not a good location for that back bud right there. This is coming right at the camera. We're going to go ahead and cut that off in hopes for growth that goes up and back instead of towards the camera. And if you notice, this nice growth right here is growing from this funky branch right here, but it's growing way back towards that other one and competing, so we'll cut this off and hope for some back budding there. And then look at this branch right here. This branch is growing from this big one over here, and it's going back towards the front of the tree. We don't want that. We'll cut this dead one off. This one we're going to cut shorter. And there's new growth here, there's new growth here, there's new growth here. A lot of new growth on that one. We'll cut this one shorter. And this one back here is dead. My lights just turned off. We got a little stump right there. We got a stump right there. Stump right there. More stumps. We're cleaning this tree up a little bit. I really like how these bougainvilleas that William has entrusted me to have really nice movement all on their own. No wire on these trees. This is just movement on its own. Now, look at this beautiful tree, but what's still competing on this tree? We've got this split here that does not look that tremendously great. And even this branch out front doesn't look tremendously great. But look what does look great. We've got a nice nabari. That's the future of the tree. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 branches here trying to grow. Now, one of these two is the apex, the leader, and these two are primaries. But which one do we keep? Well, this branch is stunning compared to this long branch back here that's just long and straight and not very appealing. We cut that one off. And this one we will put into some soil and see if we can get a cutting going. Right there. We'll see if something can grow with that one. Always making trees with extra cuttings that we have to make sure that we can continue to experiment with all these tree species. So cut all this extra branches off. We can put that in the ground and see if that will root. So now look at, we've taken this tree, we took off that base screening, we cleaned out all the roots, we got a nice nabari forming, and now we have this fun tree that kind of comes up here and then goes this way and swirls this way right away. This branch will probably come off if we can't get some growth to occur back over here. If we can't get some growth to come up back this way, this right here will be an eyesore for too long, unless the front is right there. You see that? Then we have a branch over here, and maybe we get rid of that branch. And there's our branches. But we're going to see what it does. How does it backbud? How is it going to react to this pruning? So we're going to wait and see. This one we're going to cut the tip off, but just leave that. And here we're going to cut the tip off and leave that one we can cut off down to here. We got some buds back there, and we've got these 3 branches that we can choose from right here. We've got 1, 2, 3. So we can cut off this dead, save the energy, cut off that section, and there we go. A couple more dead sections here. Just little clips in here. We're just cleaning this thing up before we call it. So this was a pretty drastic change on this tree. We got rid of a main trunk because it was kind of a split trunk, but with all these beautiful curves, they were all fighting each other. And this one here was really straight. It was a straighter of the curves and not much character to it. And so now we've just saved what we think will be the better part of the tree. We'll see if this can provide some new growth. We'll talk about this one too and see if it can provide some new growth in the back here with a little bit of growth still on here. And we'll just kind of see. We're going to experiment together and see what happens with this bougainvillea. Clean up this cut a little bit more. In hopes that that does some really nice healing. There we go. And so from this side, you really can't even see that scar. And after a year or so of growth, I bet you that'll be pretty healed up as to where we won't even know what was happening there. So there we have the next bougainvillea that William and I will work on together throughout the years. And he's let me take a charge this fall as they're being housed in my plant room. And let's give it a 360. Here we go. Now this is pretty heavy and long right now. I could compact this even down to here, to this little branch right here. But again, a new species to me. I don't want to go too hog wild. Plus we repotted it and cut some roots off. We've got a nice equal amount of flowers, I think, or blooms here, leaves, to match what's left for the roots in the bottom. We'll keep it nice and moist down here in the plant room and see how things go. So there is Bougainvillea number 3 of the 5 that I am now taking care of. And we'll put this back on the shelf and see how it does. There we have another Bougainvillea ready to hopefully push out some new winter growth in the warm, humid, plenty of light plant room here in my house. I've got a couple potential cuttings here. We can put these into some soil now and we'll see if these will take. We might as well try. And such a beautiful tree with this variegated Bougainvillea. But that will wrap up another one, short and sweet. And we've got more to do, but just not right now. Hey, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we'll catch you on the next one.